Ta-da!
There you go. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
It's a great honor to have you here. Really busy times coming up. I recall you mentioned running an election campaign is a lot like running a startup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please continue.
Yeah, we in Antwerp now with the Liberal Party, Open VLD, we have only 2 seats in the municipal council, and so we want to grow. And the way to grow is to structure your business in a good way before you start, and really think about your strategy and your vision. That's exactly what we have been doing over the last couple of years. We really have a party now which is much better structured. We value people again around the party. We had outreach to different stakeholders, different communities, different organizations in society to give input, give their feedback on what we are doing. And so I think in that respect it's much like running a startup. You know that I come from the venture capital background, so in that sense some of the experience I gained there came in helpful now building the campaign team and building the party here in Antwerp. It's a data-driven organization also, so we use also a lot of data, evidence-based policy making that we also try to do. So it helps us really to guide us through the coming next weeks, which will be indeed very, very, very busy.
Reaching out to people and listening to what they're saying. This is a lot of what startups forget to do. Get out of the building and listen to your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's listening to your stakeholders, not only to your investors. Usually, if it's smart money, they can already give you a lot of information, but also connections to their network. And then I think that's really important that young startups, young entrepreneurs really try to pick out some of their mentors and try to build on those networks. But also, of course, yeah, what's your product, who are your clients, what's your market? That's not just an exercise on paper, that's also an exercise in the real world. And people should not be afraid to experiment. Some things will fail, some things will succeed, but if you do fail, do it quickly, that's also cheaper. But these conversations, this dialogue also that you have with your potential customers and around your product is really, really crucial.
What was it about the Parlay platform that attracted you?
Well, when we discussed it for the first time, I think there are 2 big aspects for me. People who are willing to invest in the economy and try to find ways and niches to do that are always welcome, and we should try to support them. So in that respect, the fact that you took that risk and tried to set something up for me was very appealing. And the second thing I think is that you really defined your strategy and your focus is right. You're different from many of the other incubators, accelerators. So I think that by finding the right focus and really focusing on sustainability, on retail, on fashion, I think that's really a market which in Antwerp has really a foot on the ground. We're rooted here in fashion, in diamond, in retail. So building on that expertise that's already available here and trying to do more, also the international scope of that. And I think that ambition that you set, I think was also very appealing to me.
Awesome, thank you. I personally believe Antwerp is one of the best cities in the world to live in.
It is the best city to live in.
Nice. How can you contribute so that it continues this way for future generations?
Well, it's exactly that what I want to do. I have 2 kids now. One is 4.5, the other one is 2.5 months. So what I try to do is imagine what kind of trajectory they have before them. They will grow up here in the city, they will go to school. So that's one of the things that for me is really important. If you want to give people equal opportunity, good opportunities, you have to build on their capacity. Education is key, so we have to really continue to invest in education. But they also have to, for example, be able to go to school in a safe way. So invest more in, let's say, cycling roads in Antwerp where they can be safe and travel to school. And I think that's really important. They have to breathe fresh air. So I think that in Antwerp we're really a dense city also, a lot of traffic still. So we have to think about how we green the city, how we give more open space for children, but also for people living in the city to have breathing space in the city. So I think those, if you look at it through the eyes of a child, then you come up with very pragmatic solutions, workable solutions, which will continue the sustainability and improve the sustainability and the livability of Antwerp.
That's great, livability. That's equally important as sustainability. It's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that people who I chose to live in the city a couple of years ago with my wife, and we also decided to have our kids here and let them grow. But you're looking for life quality. The quality of life is important, and then you need these open spaces, you need this feeling of safety, you also need this feeling of community, bringing people together, have this kind of open conversations, because Antwerp is very diverse, and we should cherish really this diversity of cultures and of people coming from all across the world to do business here, to live here, to let their children grow up here. I think that's for me really crucial. So the livability of a city, the quality of life is something that we as policymakers should also keep in mind and always try to improve. You know, if you look to the eyes of a child, then you have to build Lego. Luckily, I had some training at home by now,
So that's why I chose Lego, right? It brings out the child in all of us.
We're now trying to follow the set plan. But you also know that, of course, also with startups, you sometimes have to deviate from the plan and become creative.
A plan is nice, but a mindset is better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that everybody should keep in mind, and bring the right people on board. Make sure that everybody's there. Also, as a politician, I always try to consult a lot. I mean, you talk to people, you have to try to understand their concerns, you have to try to understand what people need or actually looking for. And you cannot say yes to everybody and to everything. That's the big mistake I think that politicians are making. Try to cater to the taste of everybody, and there's so much diversity. Every person is unique, so you should also try to find solutions which serve the common good, but also allow people to really be themselves. I think that's something that's often forgotten. Sometimes politicians want to make too much decisions instead of people allowing them to make the decisions themselves.
Yeah, it's important to have rules, otherwise it becomes a free-for-all.
No, rules are important. I mean, especially in a city which is as diverse in Antwerp, you have to have common rules. And the rules actually are quite simple. The rules are about you're respecting people's property, you're not touching anybody physically, you're respecting people's opinions and habits, and you leave people alone as much as possible and allow them to make their life choices, and don't judge them for that. And I think that as long as we can all respect those basic set of rules, living together in Antwerp will improve tremendously. And the role of politicians is actually a dual role. It's a role not only making sure that the rules are being followed and this kind of more policing aspect of politics, but it's also about setting a tone. The way that you speak to people, the way that you interact with people sets an example also for how society is behaving. So this courtesy between people, being nice to one another, I think is also something that is set at the top. And that's for me also very important, to be a leader and to be also an example for the different communities and all the Antwerp people. I guess they'll continue for a whole time.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. But the idea here is very much like Belgian politics, that we want people to get together and co-create. I feel the great thing about Belgian politics is this co-creation, that parties get together and work towards the common good.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that has always been into the Belgian culture, and it obliges you also to listen to the different points of view, and it's always something that I try to do in a, let's say, a very empathic way, and try to find solutions by listening to people and really try to understand what exactly are you saying, what exactly are you trying to achieve, what's your goal, and then to find the way to take a step forward in that direction, in that common goal. And I think that's important. And yeah, what I sometimes don't like about politics is that people are making a process out of that and saying that because you're a liberal, you don't care about poverty in the city. No, I care. My solutions are different than the socialists or the Greens, but the goal is the same. So let's see how we can have a common journey towards that goal and see how we can take steps forward. But ultimately, it's always about people and improving people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Take credit for what you've made then. Yeah,
Well, yeah, that's always important.
Pleasure.